To behold a Verminlord is to see a splinter of the great horned rat himself. It is to see creeping decay and inscrutable knowledge made manifest, arcanic ambition and insidious malice given physical form. These towering rat demons are living icons of ruin and ultimate scavengers from beyond the veil. Verminlords are exemplars of everything a Skaven aspires to be. Insanely cunning, malevolent and menacing, viciously strong, whip fast and eternally manipulative. They are the demons of the horned rat. Verminlords loom above the hierarchy of Skaven society. They see all other Verminlords as rivals and all mortal Skaven as pawns in their ongoing schemes. However, the grey seers of Master Clan cling to boast that the Verminlords are theirs to summon and to bargain with as they see fit, and that they are thus tools of the Master Clan rather than the other way around. It suits the Verminlords to permit this cascade. Even the demons of the horned rat like to have an incompetent minion or two to blame should matters go astray. And it befits the Verminlord's sinister nature to manipulate from the shadows wherever they can. It is for this reason that certain rat demons act as patrons for particularly promising Skaven leaders. They whisper advice into their twitching ears and ensure horrible fates befall their rivals. However, for all their dark bargains and devious schemes, when a Verminlord steps into the light and flexes its monstrous talons, there can be no doubt who is the master and who is the slave. Just as the horned rat is split into different aspects, so his Verminlords reflect these personas. They are divided into the Warbringers, the Deceivers, Corruptors, Warpseers, and other rarer and stranger castes. Certain of these beings are drawn to particular great clans whose aspects echo their own and are held up by those clan leaders as vengeful totems. Verminlords manipulate and terrify any and all Skaven into doing their bidding. It is simply that they are most likely to manifest alongside those ratmen whose methods are most pleasing to them. Verminlord Warbringers are the most commonly seen of the rat demons, especially amongst the clans Verminus. And of all the Verminlords, they are the most arrogant, aggressive and territorial. Warbringers have a fondness for dramatic entrances, arriving in clouds of smoke before mustered Skaven hordes, or tearing their way into reality through the screaming form of an enemy champion. Their ego, arrogance and showmanship are not baseless. However, for few foes can match the speed and strength of a Verminlord Warbringer when its blood is up. Meanwhile, their presence spreads a supernatural fever throughout their underlings. Verminlord Deceivers, by comparison, are subtle and secretive killers whose demonic might is complemented by the supernatural stealth and skill. Closely associated with the clan's Eshin, these half-seen terrors move amidst clouds of obstructing shadow and speak in ominous whispers, and their every utterance echoing 13 times over in a chorus of subtle differing lies. When they strike, they burst forth with blistering speed to slide their warp stilettos through their victims' ribs or fling their spinning doom stars to lop off heads before the fiendish weapons return to their waiting talons. Verminlord Corruptors are demigods of the clan Pestilence. They are the demonic avatars of the Great Corruptor, fonts of eldritch ruination. Foulness runs through their clotted veins, lice teem in their scabbard pelts, and their flesh reeks of decay. Verminlord Corruptors are fanatics, single-minded in the spreading of disease and decay. They wield plague reapers with savage skill, even as they vomit geysers of rancid filth and chitter dark prayers that unleash noxious blights upon any unlucky enough to be stood nearby. A renowned Verminlord Corruptor is Sriq the Foul, who has been responsible for the outbreaks of some of the most horrific plagues in history of the mortal realms. It was he who introduced the Crimson Wheel curse to the fountains of the glittering city, and who set loose the grey shivering amid the everwood of High Sephardia. Sriq is known as the Foul for his pestilent stench and for the living carpet of parasites that seethe over his fur. Yet even though the Verminlord's very presence leaves greasy trails of dark corruption on everything he touches, the demon is actually a violent and obsessive collector of the very finest plague ingredients. Hagwolf teeth must be polished to a fine shine. Rot water must retain its perfectly podgy consistency, while Troggoth wort must be shrivelled to just the right size. The demon's strange lair is a clinkering, creaking repository of ambric jars beyond count, within which float myriad horrors gathered from across the realms, horrors he has slain entire armies to possess. Although there are many great and powerful Verminlords out there, none are more so than Screech, the Vermin King. He has his own dark tales, like no other Verminlord. A terror by just its name reaches fear into every Skaven, the name Screech Vermin King. It is said this fell being began as an entire council of 13, 12 Lords of Decay snatched up by the Great Horned Rat and cast into a shadow dimension. These were the most devious and most wicked and malevolent council there has ever been. Their plots wound about one another like twisting rat tails, and their efforts to undermine one another saw them scale new heights of cunning and conquest. Then came a scheme unlike any other. All 12 Lords of Decay claw pledging to work as one until their great undertaking was complete. Little could they know that their god heard them make this vow and the hideous fate it would lead them to. Some versions of the legend claim the council sought to gnaw away the void around the realm of heavens and send it crashing down in ruination. Others tell how the council pursued the secrets of immortality. Some even whispered that they were fashioning a weapon so powerful that it could even kill gods, and that the horned rat suspected his children of attempting to slay and overthrow him, as they would one another. Whatever the truth, their punishment was hideous, a millennia trapped in a metaphysical prison, their only nourishment the tattered remnants of foul schemes, their only pastime an endless round of recrimination, and talon pointing, when at last the horned rat relented and plucked the Lords of Decay from their prison. What emerged was not 12 individual beings, but a hideous amalgamation of them all. Twisted and tailed locked, they were now one mutated, squirming abomination that mutated further in the Horned One's grip, until, at last, it arose as the mightiest Verminlord of all time. So Screech Verminkin came into being. He possessed every scrap of knowledge and the intelligence of all the SKAVEN races, and the absolute desire to see the Horned Rat reign supreme. Since that day, Screech Verminkin has led the Shadow Council in its decision-making, unleashed terrible curses and monstrous fates upon countless civilizations, and commanded SKAVEN swarms in battle that had brought entire races to ruin. He is the left claw of the Horned Rat, and he is doom to all those who look upon him. The last Verminlord that we know is in existence is the WolfNick Verminlords, as they are the pathfinders and half-insane guides of the great horde of the verminkind, dwelling within the folds of reality as wanderers of the vast network of narholes and dimensional passages used by the SKAVEN to infest all of creation, never wholly within any realm at one time. When the servants of the Horned Rat swarm, it is often these abominations that take the lead, opening paths to realms ripe for plunder and striding forth to rend the enemies of the Horned Rat alongside lesser children. And that was my lore video for the Verminlords. And something I just want to say is that this was originally just going to be for Screech the Vermin King, who I've obviously mentioned and is the most powerful of the Verminlords in the lore, and it was just going to be a short lore video for him. But I thought it would be really quite nice to talk about them all and make this whole video a lore video for the Verminlords as a whole, because I think they're absolutely fantastic creatures in the lore. I mean, I think the SKAVEN are really unique to Warhammer. It's one of my favourite races. I've said this many times before on the channel, and I think they're really cool for what makes a SKAVEN. And the fact that the Verminlords literally embody each of those characteristics, depending on which one you include in your army and all these sorts of things, I think is really quite cool. Screech the Vermin King on his own actually just embodies all of them, and that actually shows on the table as well. Where the others are more, as it said, you know, like the Verminlord Deceivers, obviously more towards Clan Eshen, etc. Whereas Screech Verminkin, he has his own ability where he can basically, in each of your hero phases, I believe it is, he can choose which clan he is going to focus his persona on, if you like. So it can make him for Skyer, Pestilence, Moulder, etc, etc. So he is absolutely fantastic. And what I also want to say about the Verminlords is that it is, as a kit as a whole, so just talking about the kit, it's one of my favourite kits in all of Warhammer and everything that Games Workshop makes. And then the fact that you can make them so, I'm not going to say really diverse, as a lot of their poses are quite the same. I mean, I know they've got different like arm options with different weapons, but a lot of them are in the same pose, aren't they? But bearing that in mind, it's still one of my favourite models from Games Workshop. I used to have actually Screech the Vermin King, but unfortunately I had to sell him as my some of my other SKAVEN to make way for some resources to put into something else. But with what I would like to have one day is actually all the Verminlords in an army. I think that would be beautiful. I don't care how competitive that would be on the table, but the fact that there are 6 Verminlords you can have, because you've got one for each of those clans effectively. You then have Screech himself, and then you also have the WolfNick Verminlord, which is the one from Forge World, which is the one I said at the end of the lore for them. And they're all fantastically great models. They all look different enough. And just having that on the table would look absolutely beautiful. Or just having them in a cabinet, I think would be really, really cool. Some of them can be very useful in your game, particularly the Warpnor from Verminlord can be very popular. The Deceiver is very popular as well. The Deceiver is probably overall my favourite one, I think, because like a huge, massive ninja rat. What is not to like about that? But he's probably closely followed behind by the Warpnor, because that Forge World one is absolutely beautiful, and the fact that it used to be an older model and then they brought it back as well was great, because I looked at trying to get one before, and obviously go on eBay and then people want you to remortgage your house to buy like an old model which is made out of, you know, metal or resin or whatever it was back then. But the fact that you can buy it now from Forge World for not too bad a price for Forge World, I suppose. I think that one's £57 roughly. But no, so yeah, they're all great. They're all fantastic. If you're a SKAVEN collector, you probably already have a Verminlord. My question to you is, why don't you have them all yet? I think they're really quite cool. And I really just think what I said at the start was they embody all of the SKAVEN characteristics individually in themselves, which is something I love, and you really get to see that play out on the table. So what I'm going to say, guys, is I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions or any comments or anything that you love or dislike even of the Verminlords themselves, please let me know that down in the comments, as that would be great to hear. Also, if you did enjoy this video, please smash that like button and that subscribe button and that bell notification if you haven't already, because that's absolutely free for you guys to do so, and is the best free way you can support the channel. What I'd also say is that if you've enjoyed this video and you think someone else you know may enjoy it, feel free to share with them. As like I say, I make these videos to try and encourage people to get into this hobby that we all enjoy, and if it's something that will help people, especially with like inspiration towards their own SKAVEN army maybe, that would be absolutely awesome to hear. And then the other thing, of course, what I want to say is a huge thank you to my Patreons, as if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to justify doing this channel and trying to helping people out. So that is going to be my Morgasts, which is Sandback, Johnathan H, and Fliq. And what I want to just quickly say there is that Fliq has also upgraded his Patreon from being a Necromancer to a Morghast, so I really appreciate that. That makes a huge difference. Thank you for your continued support. Going on to my vampires, we've got Mir, Martin S, Rouse321, Max T, David A. Again, guys, at that tier, it really shows his huge support. And then, of course, not forgetting my Necromancers, we've got Jacq.l, RadiationRiley, AW77, Dice Sagas, WolfNick, Michal W, and Quad. Thank you guys for your huge support there as well. It really does make a difference. And the only other thing I want to say with that, guys, is if you want to support the channel on Patreon, there is a link to my Patreon at the top of the description down below. Even if you just consider becoming a Patreon and just give $1 a month, guys, it honestly goes towards me being able to keep this up and try and make as many videos for you to enjoy as possible. But I would also like to say with this video, it has generally been a joy taking a look at the SKAVEN, as I know I only have a few videos on the channel about the SKAVEN, so it's been an absolute joy to dive into them a bit further, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it too. So what I will say is, thank you very much for watching this video as always. I really hope you enjoyed it. Remember until next time to stay safe, stay hygienic, wash your hands, for God's sake wear a mask, and that means we can start gaming again in real life in not too long, hopefully. But of course, more importantly, remember that Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.